Oh no, I did.
Test.
Did I type that out loud?
Good.
Alrighty. Looks like everything's running as good as it's going to get. Any last minute things you want to do before I hit the button?
Yeah, I play too many violent video games, and now I'm going to go commit mass murder.
No, you're not. Shut up.
Yay!
I'm gonna join you out of peer pressure.
Oh my god, you guys.
To the NSA agent listening to this voice chat, I was just kidding.
I wasn't. No, kidding.
Oh, it doesn't matter. You're in Australia. Can the NSA do anything to you there?
Oh yeah, but I can get arrested for only saying a word. Remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because threatening
Nanny
someone with
state.
the police is just the most terrible thing.
One second.
According to YouTube, we're live now.
Yeah, I got the notification already.
Yeah, I can't find my notes. We'll just wing it. Alrighty. Greetings and salivation. Oh, wow, it did start. Weird. Greetings and salivations. I'm Moonthoph Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers, and you are listening to Eldritch Rants, the show that dares to ask the question, where the hell are my notes? Joining us today is our panel of experts, which is Drew, the one I suspect hid my notes. Gwendy Wook, who's the nice person, will probably say, Bob, don't be so hard on yourself. And, of course, the one, the only, Farty von Bumstink. How's it going, Farty?
Yeah, hey, here's a joke for y'all. Okay, it's a Serbian joke. There was the Serbian police, the FBI, and the South African police, and they had a competition to find a giraffe. Anyway, they were all let go, and the South African police came back within about half an hour with a giraffe, and about an hour later, the FBI came back with a giraffe. However, the Serbs took about 3 weeks, and then they came back with a battered and bruised elephant. And when the adjudicator was trying to tell the Serb policeman that this is not a giraffe, the tapping his nightstick in his hand, the Serb cop simply turns to the elephant and says, "Tell them what you are."
Okay. Unfortunately, that might be better applied to, I think, the UK this time of year. What with them censoring, like, every reporter who crosses their borders. Anyway. Anything you guys want to get out of the way before I rant a bit, and then we'll get on to the topics?
Meh.
Okay, my individual rant today is Lifetime Movie Network. Those guys, oh my God. I know it sounds weird, but my job, I have to watch the clients, which the clients seem to love Lifetime Movie Network, so I have to watch it a lot.
Just to be clear, so that everyone understands, please explain what you mean when you say clients.
I mean people who are either mentally or physically disabled or transitioning out of a mental hospital.
Okay.
Any rate, they seem to love the channel. Now, it used to be, because I've been watching it on and off for 10 years now, well, it was kind of like, welcome to Lifetime Movie Network, men will hurt you. That seemed to be the theme of the movies. But the last, I don't know, couple of months, year, it seems to be that they've added something to their formula, which is it's always been the woman, nobody believes you, you're all alone. If there's a man, they won't believe you or trust you, or they're out to hurt you. That's okay. That's par for the course for, it's a typical female in peril kind of movie. But especially on this last one that I just had to watch today, the way the women have been winning is that they lie and fake evidence to get the bad guy. Like if it was just one or two, if it was like one or two, I wouldn't. But this has got to be like the third movie from them that was how they won. And it's like, the crazy thing is of course in all these movies, if the woman calls the police never believe them, or it's like, oh well, there's nothing we can do, as opposed to real life where my experience has been that the police will immediately go over and arrest the guy you're accusing. But it always was that the female lead would defeat the bad guy and he'd either get arrested or he'd get killed, but it'd be usually his own fault. The female lead never killed the bad guy. He just did something really stupid, fell off a cliff, accidentally shot himself, drank his own poison, which is what happened on this one. But lately, like this last one, he drank his own poison to commit suicide, so he didn't have to go to jail. I don't understand that. But the reason why he was going to jail was because she framed him. I wish I knew what the name of the movie was so I could quote it directly, but it's just kind of strange. So...
Generic Lifetime movie number 67.
Yeah, except their generic formula seems to be moving towards, really... I do not like the protagonists. They are not nice people. They do not win by doing the right thing. They win by doing the wrong thing. And they get in trouble by doing the wrong thing. And they don't trust any cops or institutions. Oh, and they had a commercial on for this movie where this woman is... This one's in theaters, where she's stalked by somebody. She has a mental breakdown. She goes to an institution to, get help. And then they decide to commit her against her will. And then her stalker shows up and gets a job there. And that's the movie.
It's really stupid.
I don't know. I wish I understood what this trend was.
As a woman, I gotta say, if I saw a movie like that, I'd be spending the entire goddamn time screaming at my television. And I would. I'd be screaming at my television because I'm sorry. If you're gonna sit here and tell me that, if that were to happen.
Hang on, Pete.
Quit breaking your shit.
He broke his computer again. Anyway, we'll give him a minute or two, but I just want to rant about that for a little bit because it's I just don't get it. I sit there and I watch this, and for some reason, it's really appealing to the clients, which are admittedly, not exactly in the best place, but they obviously have more appeal, or they couldn't exist, I guess. Somebody keeps paying for all these movies, right? But anyway.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I just had an interloper from over the road. Long fucking story.
I bet in Australia an interloper is really tall, has multiple legs, and is very dangerous and probably poisonous. So
No.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that would be true because, as we've discovered and previously stated, everything in Australia is designed to kill you.
No, not in this case. It's two of my neighbours having a fucking spat over my front lawn, and I lost the fucking plot yesterday. I'm still sort of a bit pissed about it at them. So they're in Coventry at the moment.
Gotcha. Oh, well, moving on here. Let's start with Austrian faces fine for calling police officers Smurfs. This is in Berlin. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was posting on Facebook where police officers were waiting to, give you speeding tickets. And he called them two Smurfs standing with lasers. And so they tracked him down and gave him a $160 euro fine.
For what?
Oh, I really don't get that.
I don't get it either.
Yeah, people have names for cops like that all over the world. I mean, like in Vietnam, it's the white mice, and fucking other countries, it's like, as I said to the frigging cops around here, they go, "Oh, whoever refers to the police as armed," and I said, "Well, they do in Britain. Armed response. They're armed police officers, different from your bobbies."
Oh yeah, and I hear, I hear that. I hear that response also from people who are in Africa. Apparently, they use that term because there aren't usually police to call. It's usually whoever is the militia, or might be the army. So you don't know what level of officer you're getting. You're just getting somebody who's armed. So, moving on to something a little more depressing. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Telford grooming gangs in the UK.
Yep.
No.
No,
Basically-
in the UK case surprises me anymore. So
Basically, we're going on several decades old conspiracy by, hey, they call them Asians. They just happen to look like they're Middle Eastern Muslims. Who have been
Actually, when the British say Asians, they're actually talking about the subcontinent, more like the West Indies, is what most other people call it. It's namely Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan, that kind of area. But they say Asian, so they're not putting a certain demographic into a pile, which is stupid.
Well, this particular demographic is basically groomed, multiple generations of little girls to be sex slaves. And the local police knew about it, but they were afraid to arrest anybody for fear of being called racist.
Mm-hmm. Same as Rotherham.
Now, here's the problem with it. When they called for an independent investigation so that they could look into it, they said, oh, no, we've already got an investigation looking into Rotham, so we don't need to make another investigation. I'm baffled. I'm truly baffled by the ability. I mean, there's one thing that I've always thought was pretty universal, which is if there's a kid in danger, there's a lot of people who will like run into burning buildings and do all sorts of crazy things to help a kid, even if the kid's not theirs. I mean, it's one of those not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there with this kind of impulse to help children. I can't understand. I can't wrap my head around the concept that there be a cop that would turn a blind eye. I mean, how do you do that? I don't understand it.
That's easy. You just look at the footage with Lauren Southern and see how dickless the fucking officer was when he's trying to convince her to go. Oh, no, please don't do this. You're going to have a big public disturbance on your hands. Please shut this down because we don't want to piss off the poor little Muslims. You fucking dickless wonder. But then you have a look at what happened in Rotherham, and then there was that the counsellor, the social worker who was getting all these girls in, taking all their statements and all this kind of stuff. And the minute she wanted to go public with it, the cops come around and they took all of her fucking stuff and made it disappear. So it doesn't surprise me.
How? Yeah, but where do you find human beings so detached from their humanity to be these police officers?
Well, they're dumb fucks just following orders nowadays. None of them have a fucking clue of how to use their own initiative or fucking use their head to think for themselves. And that's the way the bloody police like it nowadays.
Well, I mean, I'm bringing it up mostly because it's out there, and I think it needs to be mentioned as many times as possible so that it never goes away. But I'm honestly getting to the point where the UK may need to be written off, regardless of whether or not Brexit goes through. Because if your police officers will not protect your children, what do you do? I mean, that's my question. Any thoughts before we move on? Because I don't think there's much to say other than, this is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else? Okay, moving on.
That's my opinion.
Wow.
Lovely. Well said.
That was a beautiful speech.
Mm-hmm.
Big buck contributions come from surprising source in Texas politics. I'm going to sum this one up for you. Basically, there's somebody who's trying to get into I think it's their primary, and they've been raising money. The Democratic candidate Anna Lisa Garza received $51,000 worth of deer semen donations in their campaign last month. How do you value deer semen at $51,000 is beyond me.
For what?
Yeah.
What the
To what purpose?
I honestly, they apparently come $1,000 per straw of deer semen.
That's a poor choice of words. They come $1,000 per. I do have a theory. If they're rearing like some proper fucking, like if they're trying to do something and get them genetically so they're superior in some form or fashion, interbreeding and all that kind of stuff, that might make sense because they do something similar with horses. Like, if you've got a really good quality fucking male horse, you milk that fucker and you can sell that to other stud farms and shit like that where they'll impregnate female horses.
Well, see, here's the crazy thing about this. This donation of deer semen gets around certain regulations about how much money you can donate to people because you're technically not donating money. You're donating deer sperm. I'm just...
Who buys that, though, is the real question.
That's the... Like, I could understand horse semen, and I could understand even cow semen. I could understand any livestock semen because, hey, you're a breeder or something like that. But who breeds deer? Aren't they in the wild?
You know what?
Deer meat?
If you don't mind coming back to this in a minute, I'm going to look up if deer breeding is a thing.
Okay, please, because I didn't find anything on it, but my Google foo has not been strong lately.
I'm going to make a prediction. I bet you $10, Drew, you probably find it's a upmarket gourmet fucking meat supply thing.
Actually, you'll be surprised to find out that people breed deer for their antlers. Like
really?
Antlers.
Wow. Okay, that kind of makes sense. All right.
I mean, they also do it like for food purposes as well. But the first thing that popped up that wasn't a video of, you know, like fucking Richard Attenborough narrating over deers getting it on was
and now you see the buck as he majestically mounts his steer.
Yeah, basically.
Basically. Well, I know this sounds weird, but I think it's basically a dodge for people to get around donating money, really. It just sounds weird. Although Campbell states that in his area, deers are used as livestock. And it's used as medicine in places in Asia. Well,
that's not surprising.
That's not surprising.
Probably some sort of aphrodisiac, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
By the way, I was just looking over my list and I realized I had left off Count Dankula. So I'm going to come back to... we're going to stop here on this.
Apparently, Campbell reckons that they don't kill them, they just harvest them.
Oh, well, I mean, that would be the smart way to do it because they do fall off every year. They grow and then they fall off. So if you've got deer, yeah, you got a pretty steady supply of antlers. But anyway, who's familiar with Count Dankula and the situation in the UK?
I only sort of know a little bit.
Well, here's what happened. Count Dankula, in many ways, I didn't like the guy because he's a communist. But that said, he decided, hey, what would be the most offensive thing I could do to annoy my girlfriend? So he got her little pug dog to raise his paw whenever he says, "See Kyle," because he's a communist, and as a communist, he kind of hates Hitler. So this was the single most offensive thing he could do to annoy his girlfriend. All right, she kind of was like, "That's pretty."
Pay those little kids on Fiverr to read something offensive.
No, apparently he went through this much effort. Now, they worked out whatever they had going, but somebody, either he did or somebody else posted the video on YouTube, and he got arrested for gross offenseness or something like that. And he went to trial. It's been 2 years now, and just recently he's been found guilty of gross offense. Just apparently what he said was just so rude that he needs to spend 2 months in jail.
I find the name of what they charged him with grossly offensive.
It's just when you're sitting there and going, you realize these are like morality laws. These are blasphemy laws. That's all it is. This is it's a blasphemy law. You're saying something blasphemous and you're being sent to jail for it. And
laws, right?
Yeah, and I mean, although they've deferred on sentencing for 30 days, which I think is just the judge's way of going, I'm going to wait 30 days and I hope that everybody's forgotten about this in 30 days so that when I send them to jail, I'm not going to get as much pushback. But this is part of the reason why I think the UK is totally screwed. This is beyond nuts. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is what this judge is going to learn this probably the hard way is that, yeah, once it's on the internet, fucking waiting a few weeks isn't going to settle it down. It's still going to bite him in the ass and all this kind of stuff because the internet won't let it go.
Well, the internet doesn't forget.
Mm.
Well, we can hope because, I mean, we've got the reporters being banned from their country. We've got this guy being convicted for basically training his dog to raise his paw when he says, "See Kyle." What are they going to do? Destroy the dog now? Does the dog need to be killed now? I'm serious about that, too. If this is grossly offense, then that dog needs to be sent to a place where he's put to sleep.
Either that or untrained to do that.
Yeah, that might be the case, but I mean, and do you really?
Yes, it's offensive, but like you gotta appreciate the effort the guy put into this stupid joke.
However, after World War II, you also got to realise that most of Europe, including Britain, unfortunately went and destroyed everything basically everything they could Nazi. So it's unfortunate because the history has been destroyed, but quite fortunate because if you do have any Nazi memorabilia, it's worth heaps because it's rare. But yeah, you can kind of see the legal attitude about it, where this probably hasn't changed any. Like, no one's ever changed this since World War II, but the attitude of, like, it's Nazi, it must be destroyed, it can't come back. That was the attitude at the time.
I understand it. Maybe that's continuing this way, but here's the problem. Nobody in the UK seems to give a shit.
No.
They don't. And the problem is
doesn't understand.
And they need to realize, and this includes the people who enforce the law, that whatever can be done to one of you can be done to all of you. And just because today it's Nazi saluting pug dogs, tomorrow it's going to be whatever you like. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Honestly, I think training dogs to do anything is hilarious, like regardless of what it is.
Oh, you can train cats too. I've done it. It's just kind of difficult and a lot of work. And usually you have to work with their own personality. But, you know, yeah, then it's cute. It's funny. But in a way, this is art. In a way, this is art, and you're censoring art. And when you censor art, no matter how disgusting it is, because, hey, apparently it's okay to take a crucifix and put it in a jar of urine and then sell it for $250,000. But this, oh, yeah, this is over the top. I don't know. When I say this, that I think we need to write off the UK, I'm beginning to think that's the case, because their own people don't care, and if you can't fight for yourself, nobody else is going to.
Well, if a dog zig-hailing in a house is offensive to people, then what's going to happen when someone shits on someone's front lawn? Like some dog shits on someone's front lawn. That's offensive. The owner has to go to jail for 2 months because I found that dog shitting on the lawn offensive because it was poo, and poo's offensive.
Because I'm a minority, and he's basically saying that your dog or my dog thinks you're shit.
Yeah. Look, you're the same color as his excrement.
And as somebody who used to work in a law firm where my job was to tear contracts apart, that's exactly how it works. You find one precedent. It doesn't matter if it was from the 1800s and involved, like, an exchange of a sheep. Okay, it doesn't matter as long as you can somehow tie it to that, because the objects don't matter. Like if it's a sheep or if it's a car. The law views objects as the same thing, and livestock and cars are identical as far as they're concerned, except one's more perishable. And that's it. Like, once you set this precedent once, you can do anything, because the judges hate to contradict other judges. It's called legislation from the bench, and I've seen it done. And I back in the day, I was a fanatic about reading every weird court case, because you could totally beat people up with this shit. This is dangerous as hell. This is high. We can take, and you make a joke. If you call something a joke, you can go to jail. Doesn't matter what it is. Unless this is overturned, and I don't think it will be, because their government thinks it's a good thing until they completely lose control. Because as we've seen with the Democrats thinking, oh, we'll never lose control of the U.S. government until Donald Trump takes over. And now suddenly all the stuff he's doing is, oh, that's so horrible. Wait a minute, you guys did it first.
Disregarding that he's a Democrat.
Well, yeah, he's a Democrat too.
In all but name.
Oh yeah, he is. I mean, there's no question about that.
He went on record in the 80s saying, if I ever run for president, I'm going to run as a Republican because Republicans are stupid.
Oh yeah. That's the part that cracks me up.
I'm pretty sure that's not a direct quote, but it's in the same spirit of what he said.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I remember the interview you're talking about too. That's basically what he said, and I mean, it's.
Granted, that interview was a little bit before my time, but.
And actually, we'll get back to Donald Trump later. Let's move on here. Hold on one sec.
That one
Alrighty.
Not me.
This one gives me a little bit of hope, though. EU revolt. Polish Prime Minister reveals the 12 nations ready to topple Macron and Merkel's agenda. Apparently, the Poland and about 11 other countries all got together behind Merkel's back and said, we're kind of being screwed here. How about you guys? You guys getting screwed?
Actually, I bet you $10 they thought to themselves, hey, this whole fucking we're all being run by Germany and our military being run by Germany and our finances being run by Germany and our politics being run by Germany. Hey, this sounds like fucking World War II just without shooting. Maybe we should not fucking do this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the EU's done. I mean, it's done in all but name. There's no way it's going to last because the fact that these 8 countries, I believe it's I mean, they're not big countries, but it doesn't take much to show the cracks forming, and sooner or later something's going to go. And we're going to bring up what Italy's been talking about doing in a bit, but. Any thoughts on, like, the fact that Poland seems to be leading the counterattack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they're looking at fucking the same thing too. Like, you know, they were the first to get bloody taken over in World War II, and they're probably looking at this going, "Holy shit, it's coming again." But also, they're probably scared of the fact that if Germany does get in, Merkel and whoever's probably going to follow her is going to be the type of person to delegate countries to take in these refugees, which they're now starting to realise is a really bad idea, and they don't want to do it anymore. But you'll probably find that's a big player in that part too.
Well. Any other comments, or shall we move on?
Let's move on.
I don't have many details on this one. FBI seeks motives of fiery van crash at California Air Base. Investigators are working around the clock as they struggle to determine why a man with no apparent ties to terrorism drove a flaming minivan full of propane tanks and gasoline cans through the main gate of a major Northern California Air Force base this week. Now we get to the name. Havzkazi, 51, died in a Kia minivan Wednesday night after veering through the gate of the Travis Air Force Base and crashing and apparently burning. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
why do we care what model van it was?
Well, isn't Travis where they keep the B-52s?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where they... I mean, he was never going to get anywhere near anything. Military bases actually prepare for this sort of craziness, but still... I part of me just is sitting there and going, I mean, yeah, okay. I think he's actually from India and, you know, not from like the Middle East. But to be honest, if you might be from India, but you might also be from, I think it's Pakistan, if you're on the border there. And
Qazi sounds like more of a Stani name.
Yeah. And I'm betting he's Muslim. I don't know. Just call me kooky. Quite possible. But
I'm sorry, that's racist and hate speech.
Yep, yes, it is. It is.
We're running under Australian rules here, so racism and all that shit can go get fucked.
Because right now, a whole bunch of people could have been killed, except that the guy who was trying to kill everybody was incompetent. And the old saying is, we can stop 1,000 terrorists. They only need to win once.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
And
wasn't it Patton who said no one ever won a war by dying for their country? They won a war by making the other fucker die for his.
Well, right now, I don't know. I mean, it's just Okay.
The point on that, I guess the point on that is like, yeah, sure, come and die for your god. We're here to survive and we're here to kill you. Bring it on.
See, actually, oddly enough, this ties in with a weird conversation I had with somebody the other day. They were going about and saying, you know why you have school shootings? It's because of white privilege. And I was like, excuse me? Well, it's only white males who do all the shootings. And I said, okay, one, a lot of those shooters, if you actually look at it, they almost always universally have a history of sexual abuse. So if you're looking for who your shooters is, it's the people who are usually being abused that do this. But okay, that's privilege. But let's ignore that. If you actually include like black children shooting, period, not just in school, but shooting, like, you know, gang violence, there's a lot more black males shooting up places than white males. And that's not to call them out. That's to say that when you're a member of a gang, they're like a cult. And any good cult leader can find the ones with the lowest self-esteem, the ones that you can convince to be the most suicidal, to go out and do things that might get them killed in, you know, the name of your gang. If you include those figures, no, it's not white males the only one getting shot. If you're a leader of a cult, you're really good at finding the ones who are victimized. And you can set them up to go shoot things up for you. Beyond so, okay, what's your saying, Dandy?
Okay.
That sounded painful.
Keeping my mouth shut for a second was mildly painful. No,
Please, I want to hear.
I understand where you're coming from and the argument that you're trying to make, but you were totally off key with that, though. See, the difference between what you're like gang violence and mass shootings is, gang violence is heavy and there is a lot of death, but you don't generally have one person killing a large amount of people very, 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 very quickly. Whereas a mass shooting is a completely different thing. You have one person, maybe two, killing a large amount of people very, 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 very quickly. That is the point.
Well,
okay. You didn't.
Violence in general, yes, I can see where you're getting that comparison, but otherwise, mass shootings in general are more typically done by white males.
You're not.
Sexual abuse thing, but I mean, I can understand that, and I could see how that would contribute. But otherwise, comparing that to gang violence just to pull in that it's
well, okay, how many people does it have to be for it to be mass? Because I'm going with 4, and with 4, yeah.
Hold on.
Apparently it's 2. It's only 2 because when that report, like that camera guy came back and reported it, Sheila and the other bloke, they called that a mass shooting and only 2 people got killed.
Okay, well, that may be the case, but from my experience where I come from, and there were a lot of well, I don't want to name their names. They might come for me. But there was one particular bike gang that I had to move heaven and earth to try and get 2 people out of it. And one of them I succeeded and one of them I didn't. And from my experience of dealing with these people, they're like a cult. I especially there have been it just doesn't get reported, or the death rate isn't that high. I mean, if you go by woundings, I mean, dear God, these guys shot up a lot of places. You know, the cops are terrified of them, but they had a deal with the cops. There were certain areas they had no-go zones in Buffalo. There were no-go zones in Buffalo, but it wasn't against the Muslims. It was against this one particular gang. But yeah.
Well, I'll put this point out there to people, and that is, everybody doesn't sort of realize this, but the AK-47 has killed more people than all atomic bombs put together. So, which is the worst part of it? Which is it the atomic bomb, or is it the AK-47 that's killed more people over a longer successive period of time? There is no difference. They all kill people. They're all just as bad. That's my point.
And one thing has been like effectively essentially banned, while the other one has not.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant.
That doesn't stop countries from developing them, though.
Well, my point is what is creating these people? What are the warning signs?
That's what I want to know.
The warning signs are getting The warning signs for me, usually the lone wolf is somebody who's screwed up and had some sort of pain in their past. Whatever it is, be it something they perceive as pain or actual pain. Because understand, perception is everything when it comes to this. All right? But the ones who get help, the ones who have people they can talk to, the ones that they can vent to, those are not the ones that go and kill people. My experience has been the ones who I'm worried about are not the ones who are all quiet and withdrawn and hate themselves. They don't do the mass shootings. And the ones who are all boisterous and yelling and angry and hate the world, they don't do the mass shootings. It's the ones who hate the world and are quiet. And I've talked to these guys. Very rarely I meet somebody like that. But when I meet somebody who's kind of hates the world and hates themselves, those are the ones who will do the shootings. Now, fortunately, most of them find some friend, some family member, somebody who can help talk them out of it at some point, or at least bring them back around. But when you get in member of any group, be it neo-Nazis, and by the way, I say neo-Nazi, not Nazis. Neo-Nazis are nothing like Nazis. Neo-Nazis, the real Nazis would kill neo-Nazis. Neo-Nazis my experience with these guys, they are just a drug gang and they're just a cult. Okay, that's my experience with them. But they're a cult and they will find people who are weak, bring them in, give them happiness, give them a family, and then say, by the way, here's a gun, can you go do this crazy thing? There's a bit of a difference between the two. You got the lone wolf and then you got the person who's a member of a group. But if you include, baited into doing something stupid, yeah, there's a lot of people who do mass shootings. It's just that you don't get a lot of dead bodies, or a lot of it gets covered up or kind of off to the side of the news.
The definition of mass shooting, I've been looking into this while you're doing what you're doing. It varies depending on which agency you're looking at that has a record of what they define as mass shootings. One does it purely by the numbers, and there's one group of people or a group of statisticians, for lack of a better word, defines it by number, and there's another group that defines it as an incident where the motive appears to be indiscriminate killing.
Yeah, I was kind of getting that impression when a lot of these shootings were starting to happen a couple of years ago, when they'd 160 something shootings under Obama's watch in the first couple of months of the year, and they kept on reducing the amount of people that had to get killed until it was a mass shooting, and that's where that reporter came in with the ex-cameraman. He shot the reporter and somebody else, and fucking then it was only two people. It was a mass shooting. It's like now it's getting a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, we're obfuscating the results and getting hung up on it. If you want to pinpoint these guys, it's somebody who usually hates themselves and hates the world at the same time. One or the other, actually, I found isn't that dangerous, because the guy who hates the world but doesn't hate himself, he'll yant, he'll scream, he'll have fights, he'll be very belligerent. But because he's constantly venting his spleen, he doesn't feel like he's backed into a corner and has no choice, like that he's lost everything. The person has to completely hate themselves and everybody else. And usually I don't see that unless I'm dealing with somebody who's had, sexual abuse. That seems to be the big one. It's not everybody is sexually abused, but there's a unique it sort of pops up every once in a while. You get this weird combination of, most people, it either turns inward or outward. It's very rare you get both, but I've seen it. It's very terrifying. Or it's somebody who's being conned into do it by whatever group they're through. And it doesn't have to just be Muslims or any, foreign or Russians or anybody. It can be right here in America. Trust me, there's plenty of groups here in America that use violence to solve problems, and they're more than happy to indoctrinate people. They do. And once you're in, trust me, it's really hard to get out. I had to literally pay money to get somebody out. Like, I had to buy their way out. So, but that all said,
go look up the Symbionese Liberation Army and the Weather Underground. Go look up those two, and you'll see exactly what Bob's talking about.
At any rate, shall we move on to something more funny for a while? Not be so serious?
Yeah, why not? Wait, be so serious.
Yeah, I need to get off this topic because I feel a personal rant coming on.
Goal spilled on Russian runway after plane door glitch. Russian news reports say the hatch of a cargo plane carrying precious metals accidentally flew off upon takeout, scattering at least 3 tons of gold on the runway.
Okay, there's an inaccuracy in this story already. It was the load had to have shifted for all this to happen, because if the doors just simply flung open, the load should have still been tied down. And the way that you tie loads down on vehicles is that you can turn the vehicle upside down and the load should not separate from the vehicle that you've tied it to. So if gold is spilled out the back, the load wasn't tied down properly, it shifted and it went straight through the back door and out into the runway. Whoopsie!
Somewhat fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, did they say, oh, well, a handle just kind of broke away and 172 gold bars weighing 3.4 tons just scattered all over the runway. And completely by accident.
And then all of a sudden, a random gaggle of lard and Neve has come out of fucking nowhere to clean it all up, and then disappeared as fast as they came.
And there's no chance that there was, a clerical error on how much gold was on the plane, right? Yeah, I'm sure.
No.
Oh my God, I'm just sitting there and going, wow. No, this doesn't happen unless somebody's doing something really illegal. But okay, so
no, it totally happens. This was totally legit, not a cover up.
Oh yeah,
100% Drew verified as plausible.
How much is your cut?
I plead the fifth.
We're working for the Russians to create the fake news. Yeah.
On a slightly similar note, there's a video you can look up on YouTube where there's a Russian military plane taking off from an Australian Air Force base, and he takes the entire runway and he takes forever to just to climb to altitude. But the commentary from the guys in the control tower is fucking hilarious. It's like, and the vodka burner's going, and we have Smirnoff. And as he's getting to the end of the runway, they go, anytime you're ready, mate. Phew, shit, he cut that close. Geez, I hope I don't run out of battery before he crashes. Fuck, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, go look it up. Go listen to it. It's fucking hilarious.
Okay, well, let's move on to something else funny. Going extinct. Animatronic T-Rex bursts into flames. In Cannon City, Colorado, the co-owner of a dinosaur-themed park in southern Colorado thinks an electrical malfunction caused a life-sized animatronic Tyrannosaurus Rex to burst into flames. And the picture is priceless. He's got flames shooting out of his mouth.
You know what would be even better? If they found it was hit by a meteorite.
Russian meteorite. But yes, that would have been perfect.
The one Putin turkey slapped back into space. It went around the moon and came back.
We knew he had a temper, but today he blew his top. I gotta admit, if I was walking along and I was like seeing a 24-foot tall Tyrannosaurus animated Rex that burst into flames and it was burning there, I'd be like, well, there's something you don't see every day. Oh.
There you go. Creationists were right. The fucking God doesn't like this.
We need to see if there's actual video footage of that.
Now, we just have the picture. I could not find any videos on it, but still, the picture is beautiful. The picture, you got the giant skull, its jaw is open, and it just looks like all the fire is just pouring out of his mouth, like he's just shooting flame. You're just, wow, that is beautiful. That is just beautiful.
Campbell's got it 100% there.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Can we get a t-shirt of a burning T-Rex with the caption Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Yeah, we got to do that.
If somebody makes it, like, send me a link to your online store and I will buy it.
Yes, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, that is awesome.
Fuck it. No, fuck it. We're supposed to be getting into branding soon and all this shit, so fucking why don't we do it?
Yeah, I'll have to put that one down. I've got to put that. I got to set up.
Is that going to be next week's starting image?
Sure. I'm going to save this one right now. Hold on.
Yes.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'll have to make it a bit more cartoony, but yes, that is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, wait, where's my?
Someone's got to play the Barney theme somewhere along the line.
You know, I'm just going to mention it in briefing. I don't want to get into too much detail, but you heard about another, I think, minivan of peace in France.
Yep, and this copper must not be an actual French guy because he had some balls.
Oh, yeah, he let himself get switched for a hostage and wound up dead.
Yep.
I really didn't want to get into more depressing news, but I also felt, you know what? That's balls. And the guy deserves, deserves his accolades for what he gets. What's his name here? Lieutenant Colonel Arnaud, I can't pronounce it, Arnaud Beltram. But yeah, had enough guts to do what he needed to save somebody else's life. They need about 100,000 more people just like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if all the French cops were like this guy, you wouldn't have a fucking terrorist problem in the first place.
No, not at all. But
That's
yeah,
why they should get a bunch of Serb cops.
Nice callback.
Well, moving. Unless there's anything else, I want to move on quick.
Yeah.
Italy is thinking of quitting the euro. They are announcing Plan B to get their country out of single currency, and couldn't happen to a nicer country.
Yeah, would that be because they keep reneging on their repayments, like Greece?
Yeah, pretty much. And to be honest, the euro has been destroying their country. It's without having their own currency, they can't devalue their own money when they need to, and as such, it's just been devastating their economy. The euro has basically been raking them over the coals.
Yeah, and that's been mainly because of bloody Greece. Because every time they've reneged on loans and stuff like that, that kept dropping the euro, and everybody else had to cop it.
But they haven't quite committed to it yet. They've sent some ultimatums to Germany and saying, "Hey, if you take our requests, we won't leave, your one currency." But Merkel. I'm getting to the point. I'm surprised she hasn't just ordered her army to go out and invade countries at this point. Really.
Well, because the German army isn't really what the German army used to be, unfortunately.
Well. It gives me hope. I mean, the problem is once the EU goes down, there's going to be decades to recover from the damage that they've sustained. But still, it's a step in the right direction, hopefully. Any thoughts before moving on?
I do have a French joke, though.
All right, shoot.
All right, this old bloke, he gets off the plane. He's about 80 years old. He gets off the plane in France, Charles de Gaulle Airport, and he's going through customs, and he doesn't produce his passport. And the customs officer says, well, you need your passport. And he goes, I didn't need one the last time. And he says, yes, you did. You always need a passport to get here. And the bloke simply replies, yeah, well, in 1945, when I came here last, I got to the beach and I was trying to find one of you fuckers to give my passport to, but I couldn't see one.
Gotcha. Oh, that was bad.
Okay, so I'm having some shit jokes today.
Oh, groaners, yes. At any rate, we do have a question. What's the opinion on the skipperal nerve agent attack? I believe what I heard about this is they're still in the hospital, and they don't know if the victims are ever going to recover any sort of mental function. I believe also that the nerve agent in question supposedly has its origin from Russia, and Russia claims to have no involvement in it whatsoever.
Well,
my opinion.
That can be explained.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Simply as a thing from the Cold War, when Russia collapsed, there was a lot of things that were stuck in now foreign countries that Russia, in some cases, still hasn't secured. But everybody was too busy worried about their nuclear stockpiles. no one was really caring about the chemical and biological weapons. So there's places in Chechnya that could have had that happen. There's a lot of the stands that have separated from Russia back in the 90s that would have had this. And it wouldn't put it past somebody to sort of go, hey, when they come looking for this shit, we might sort of try and steal a bit now before they get it all back. So that's one way it could have happened. But what Russia wants to do with this is they want a joint investigation with everybody, so as they can show that yes, right, they're working with people and all this kind of stuff. I don't really think it was the Russians, but yeah, this leads into like arguments with the rest of the world saying, oh well, Russia's only doctoring the books and all this kind of stuff. They're going to lie about it and all this shit. But give them a chance to prove their point. You'll probably find that it might have been engineered in a different country, like Iran, for example.
Here's my position on the whole thing. People seem to think Russia's this monolith. It's not. It's rather fractured. Okay? There's still a lot of really powerful bosses in Russia. Despite Putin, he does not have the complete control over everything. And I am certain there are many factions in Russia. Could this have come from Russia? Sure. That doesn't mean it came from the Kremlin. That doesn't mean Putin was involved. It just means it may have come out of Russia. Or as you said, it could be out of Iran wanting to frame Russia. Because I'm certain Iran would love to frame Russia. Because
here's another little point. A couple of years ago, Iraqi special forces made several raids between the borders of Iraq and Syria. And this was about the time when the Syrian rebels were claiming that the Syrian government was using chemical weapons on their own people and all this kind of stuff. Well, the problem with that is that the Syrian government was winning with conventional weapons anyways. They had no use for chemical and biological weapons. And it always seemed that they were being used when the bad guys were on the back foot just to sort of claim, whatever. Now, what the Iraqi special forces found was in tunnels and buildings and whatnot, both sides of the border, there were precursor chemicals for chemical weapons, plus also manufacturing equipment like centrifuges and stuff like that, all scientific equipment. Now, I wouldn't put it past someone to, get some of the plans and have that made in-house. Now, why fucking, why would the Syrian rebels do this? Well, because Russia's kicking their ass at the moment, and it'll be anything to get Russia off their back. And if Britain and the rest of Europe is too busy arguing with Russia, and hopefully Russia will be too busy worried about them to be worried about the rebels in Syria. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that because Russia's got a big-ass military, and they can do both things at the same time.
I think in the end, we shouldn't rush to judgment. We should never rush to judgment, and we should wait until the investigators do their job. I think that's the only sensible thing to do, and to make any accusations until the investigators have done their job. And, well, maybe it's time we started trusting some people, because that seems to be the problem. Whenever I run into something that's like, oh, it has to be... Why don't we trust the investigator? Oh, you can't trust investigators? Then what's the point? What's the point? If you can't trust the police, if you can't trust the authorities to do their job, well, yeah, there's problems, but we got to trust somebody at some point, You can't just dismiss...
all those people who say you can't trust the investigators over there to investigate themselves and see how they do.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, you'll find that it's an inside job run by Bush then.
Yes, I can see that. Both of them working together.
I'd like to take this moment to remind everyone 7-Eleven was a part-time job.
No, it's an indoors job. It's an indoors job.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's all. Too soon.
That was so bad.
It's too soon.
It's an indoors job.
Okay. Oh, that was bad.
Fucking truthers.
Moving on. March for Our Lives demonstrates in Washington, D.C. and around the world. I wanted to bring this up because we've been hearing about all these children marching for gun control. And then the question comes, what do you want done? We want gun control. Okay. And you want what done? Gun control. Okay.
But wasn't there an instance just not long ago where we actually got definitive proof that someone who's armed that's in a near distance to a shooting event could do something about it and prevent lots of casualties? Didn't that just happen?
Yeah, but I've got a better point, which is I've been everybody familiar with Black Hitler?
Yeah.
Black Hitler actually does some good things from now and again. He was investigating, he was talking to some kids who were in these rallies. Only black kids, of course, because he's Black Hitler. But they were going on about saying, no kid organized any of this. Nobody knew anything about this. We had 15 minutes notice and we were marched out there and told to stand. We weren't allowed to talk to anybody. And trust me, we wanted to because we've been trying to organize a Black Lives Matter march. And we're not allowed to do that. Now, I know what he was focusing on, which is he was focusing on kids aren't allowed to make Black Lives Matter marches. And personally, if they want to make whatever they want to make, they have that right. It's America. Say whatever you want to say, even if I don't believe in what you're saying. But that said, I think the point is, though, I do believe the kids. I don't think they were making it up when they said we had no notice. A lot of these pictures that I'm looking up, there's not a lot of pictures. I don't see a lot of... These are kids, right? Why are their Twitter accounts barren? If this was actually 1,000 children organizing for this, shouldn't there be like 10,000 tweets on this? But there's not. It's not trending.
The thing I really like about it is how that, like, we had the protests even here in Australia, and I'd be fucking baffled to find one case where we've had a school shooting in the last fucking ever. Actually, no, 86 I think was the last one I can remember. And that was a kid with a bolt-action rifle, and he got off about 3 rounds before another kid crash tackled him and beat the shit out of him.
Of my opinion, this is not children organized. This is government organized, or at least school organized.
Yeah, school organized. Because they do that a lot out here too. The teachers will get their kids out of school and take them along to protests and all this just to bolster numbers and stuff like that. They tried doing that to me when I was in school. I told them to get fucked.
By the way, with you, Jacob, you're spot on. Yeah, CNN, Russia poisoned us. We won't tell you how or why, but they did. Just take our word on it. They do that a lot, too. I get all these stories because I torture myself at my other job, and I watch CNN because I want to know what they're saying. And they make all these announcements, all these great headlines, but they never get around to the details that tell you what the hell's going on. So, sigh. Any thoughts before moving on?
No.
Yeah, didn't the people who organized that march block the siblings of one of the victims of the recent school shooting from speaking also?
Oh yeah, that came up too. Well, it's because they're pushing their agenda and they don't care about actual discussion, which I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if there was a discussion. Let's talk about it. But if you're not letting both sides talk, then that's not a discussion. That's a lecture, and nobody likes being lectured at. Okay, moving on here to Concord, New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Lottery Commission has replaced its Luck Yeah ad campaign with Win Time over concerns that the original phrase sounded like profanity. Yes, it sounded like profanity. That's why it was working. Okay, anybody remember Make 7 Up Yours campaign?
Yep.
Oh, man. I had one of those t-shirts.
You might not like 7 Up, but there's a lot of people who saw that campaign who you say the Make 7 Up Yours. That's what's their thing. They had a t-shirt where they had a supposed misprint where it said Make 7 on the front and Up Yours on the back.
Yeah, that was the shirt that I had.
That was the shirt.
We had,
That sounds like a great shirt.
Yeah.
we had KFC a few years ago do some really fucking creepy bloody slogans. There was their main one, which was nobody does chicken like the Colonel. So he's a chicken fucker. But then they were saying, they had all these slogans around the shop, gotta have that fresh taste in my mouth and all this kind of shit. And it was all fucking what weirdo wrote all this shit?
Okay, the sad thing is, yeah, it's weird, it's bizarre, but you remember it, and that's the point of advertising. I will admit, I will remember Make 7 Up Yours, even though I don't like 7 Up, but I'll remember that. I will remember that t-shirt for a long time to come. It worked. The Show Us Your Cans campaign didn't work so well. That one that wasn't. But the Make 7 Up Yours, that one was actually funny. But this whole...
I don't remember the Show Us Your Cans one.
Oh, yeah, that was the one after it. They said, well, since the Make 7 Up Yours didn't work, they had the same frizzy haired black guy saying, we're going to have Show Us Your Cans. Take a picture of your cans and send it to us. And then he started getting pictures of people taking pictures of their ass. Because apparently your ass is your cans.
It could be far, far worse. The Whitest Kids You Know actually did a skit sort of similar to this, advertising a grape flavoured soft drink. And the slogan was, I'll grape you in the face.
Oh, I remember that. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a great joke, but yeah, that was just a joke, and like they made fun of the fact that it sounded really offensive in the skit.
Yeah, it's like, you can't have kids saying, I'll grape you in the face. You can't say that to kids.
My whole problem with what New Hampshire is doing is the reason why they changed it. If they changed it because, okay, you know, it's not selling well, it's not trending well, it's not doing what we want it to do, fine. But they wanted to get rid of it because they said, we apologize if it was insensitive. They're just bowing to pressure. Okay, this isn't marketing pressure. This isn't the market speaking. This is probably some busybody coming along and waggling their finger while they clutch their pearls and fall back on a fainting couch. You know.
The children! Think of the children! Fuck the children. Pedophiles, dude.
Oh my god. Really, really bad.
That was really bad.
That was actually really wrong even for me.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
You know it's bad when he's saying it's bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Someone's gonna have to man that fucking gate for me.
Oh god.
oh, what was that one? What was that one? Oh, there was this.
That was one of those things.
Oh, the advertising campaign.
You like paw in front of your face, trying to shove the words back into your mouth, but you know it's too late.
What, there was this one.
Were you trying to pull the foot out of your mouth?
There was a meat place in New York City. Their thing was can't beat our meat. And they've been around for like a century, and that was their motto, can't beat our meat. I remember that one. That was a funny one. Anyway, moving on to something else funny. Romanian court says dead man can't get his driver's license back. Apparently, there was a Romanian man who was officially declared dead who went to court to say, excuse me, I'm not dead. Hello, here I am, not being dead. Although looking at his picture, I will admit, I kind of wonder if he isn't dead because he does look kind of pale to me. But after he made his case, unfortunately, he failed to meet the requirements, and so the Romanian court said, nope, we're sorry, you're still dead. However, as a consolation prize...
He had a heartbeat.
Well, I don't understand why. I didn't find out that part.
Exactly, he's not dead, he's only mostly dead.
But he did they did say, but you know what, as a consolation, you can have your driver's license back.
Weekend at Boris's.
Cases like this may seem odd or even sinister and are blamed on a legal void that appears in Romania. How do you get a void in your legal system?
No, the judge thought it was just that the bloke that was alive thought it was just a really convoluted thing of Weekend at Boris's.
Yeah, oh wait, I found the reason why. His appeal to list himself as alive was rejected because his request was filed too late. There's a statute of limitations on declaring yourself alive in Romania.
In that case, I would like to declare myself alive right now.
Just every 5 years, declare yourself alive just in case somebody somewhere has declared you dead.
I'll wait a bit because I'm still not sure.
Wait.
Could he kill somebody?
Alive or alive on the
Or dead on the inside? Could he kill somebody, get away with it? I don't know. I think if you can hold a driver's license, you can still go to jail. I would say that I don't think they'd have any problem putting a dead man in jail.
death row.
Well, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if the dead guy was actually like, a secret murderer or something like that, and then like he's thinking, yes, I'm dead. They didn't fucking stick me in jail, and he's looking down from heaven. They're carting his body into the prison. Go, fuck.
Well. Moving on. This mural quotes Trump's Access Hollywood tape, and now the owner is facing jail time. The ACLU is up in arms that this man put this big, disgusting mural across his property in violation of town ordinances. And they're saying, they're violating his right to free speech. No, there's a zoning violation.
As long as it doesn't infringe on,
Yeah, it's called zoning. And I'm sorry, but I don't want somebody next to me painting their house yellow and black stripes with purple polka dots. They might think it's funny, but it's going to drop my property values. Okay? That's the fact. Whenever anybody does weird stuff like to their property, your values drop. One of the few things I remember from being a mortgage broker.
You're not wrong. Like, you aren't wrong with that, but I don't think that's what zoning laws are they? I thought that had to do with like business, residential.
No, they are. They're designed to control what people can and cannot do on their properties, basically to serve the needs of the community. Okay? And part of the needs of the community are, don't do something that causes your neighbor's property values to drop. This is where you get zoning for like you need to, like around here. Every owner is required to shovel the sidewalk in front of their house. The city puts it there. You have to keep it clear. You don't, they'll come by and they'll give you a fine. And when they're low on money, trust me, they'll come by like 2 seconds after you were supposed to have it shoveled. But that said, they have a zoning that says you cannot paint a mural like 12 feet high and 24 feet wide with boobs on it. I mean, the picture, if you've got a pair of breasts on it, it's like this is, unfortunately, this does technically, buy a billboard. Just go buy a billboard. You can rent them. They have digital ones now, where the picture changes. So those are a lot cheaper. They don't have to pay to have the big, huge sheets of, silk printed whatever put on the thing. But the ACLU is saying he's being told not to have this because it's a quote from Trump. No, that's not what it says. And this is part of my problem with the ACLU lately, is that they will take what is obviously one issue, like, because it's written down, this is a zoning issue. They even put it in their article. But then they turn it around and say, he's just being prosecuted because it's about Trump. No, he could have just had it say random letters, and I'm sure he'd still get hit with a zoning issue. So, your neighbors are pretty...
Free speech trumps the zoning laws.
I'm sorry, what?
What they're going to try and argue is that his free speech trumps the zoning laws.
But he can say what he wants just somewhere else, not in front of like somebody's house when they live right next door. Because in that case, your free speech is affecting your next door neighbor. You are actually...
I agree with you. Like, don't get me wrong, but that's what they're going to try and argue, because that's what the ACLU does.
And in some ways, I used to admire them because it was like, push that value of free speech. But on the other hand, it's like, if this was a mural that said, the ACLU is evil and they're, just all sorts of horrible things about the ACLU, and it included like negative references to Muslims and go Nazis, would they be still fighting for it? That's my question. Are they fighting for this because it's free speech, or are they fighting for this because it carries the same political ideology as them? Any thoughts before moving on to the last topic?
No, I've got nothing.
Ah, crap. I tried to save this and I think I saved it wrong. Any rate, I remember last week when we were talking about the bridge collapse in Florida.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I bet it's some, diversity hire or a feminist or somebody who got hired to do it.
It's even worse than that.
Oh, it actually was a feminist. Yeah, but I saved the article and now it didn't save right. So, but basically
There's actually a bunch.
Oh,
There's
go
actually
ahead.
a bunch of fucking There's actually a bunch of Sheilas in the company and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Oh, it wasn't just one. I read it wrong.
No,
Oh, I thought it was just
yeah.
one individual. Like they.
Oh no, this company was full of diversity hires and mainly female, and they
Yeah.
were proud of it too.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember that part. But when I was looking it over, I'm like, anybody? I'm not an architect, and I can tell you this plan is crazy. Like it's going to be faster, safer, and cheaper, except that you're basically balancing your entire bridge in one single point of failure. I'm surprised it got up there.
Also, the point too that this Sheila actually came out and exclaimed that her interests were not in the structural design, but more the aesthetics of it. So she was too busy worried about what it looked like, whether it was going to stand up or not.
Oh yeah, when I read that part, there was a part of me that went, what? Huh? Oh my god! But
Yep.
what? I mean, I guess there's a part of me that goes, "You're an engineer. Aren't you supposed to worry about function first?"
Oh no. Function. Oh, here's what Volvo found out about females and function. Years ago, they went and got a bunch of females to design a car. The one thing they forgot was a bonnet
What's the what?
or a hood. A hood.
They
Remember, I'm speaking of Yanks here. A hood. We call it a bonnet out in Australia.
they forgot to put a hood on the car they wanted.
Yeah, because when they were asked, they went, "Why would we need to check the engine?" Yeah.
So wait a
But
minute.
also,
There's no way to open the car up to get to the engine.
yep, that's right.
So it's not missing a hood. There's just a sheet of metal.
That's right.
That's just poor design.
That's
Yeah, well, obviously, Volkswagen never made that car, or Volvo never made that car. But also, another fun fact about this mob that built that bridge in Florida is that they also had a footbridge at the Florida International Airport that also collapsed.
wow.
And I don't think that was too long ago either. I think that was in the last couple of months from memory.
You know, there was a part of me that was always going, yeah, there's all this crazy political correctness, but at least it's being stuck to unimportant things, you know, social things. But the moment that it starts resulting in infrastructure that will collapse, that's the point where it starts killing people. And
Well, see, where I said last week, where I said nothing was done right, even occupational health and safety was not done right. Because if you look at the dash cam footage from the truck that was coming up to the bridge, when it falls, if you look at the crane, there's actually a worker who's in a harness that was on top of the bridge, and then when the bridge falls, about a second later, you see him fall down, and the safety sling on the harness, it extends fully, and then just gives, and he just drops with the bridge. So even their safety gear was dodgy.
wow. You know, there's a part of me wondering if this was some sort of money laundering scheme. Because whenever I see anything like this, I keep saying to myself, I'm wondering where did all the money go? But maybe this wasn't a money laundering scheme. This was just incompetence.
Personally, I'd rather it be that, because, yeah, it'd just be even more horrific and tragic if you find out that they were greedy cunts as well.
Yeah, whenever anybody tells me anything is cheaper or better or new or improved, I immediately start to weep. Because that happens to my food all the time.
And as I said last week too, there's billions of reasons why we don't build bridges like that at all. I mean, for starters, right, if you have a look at it like that, and that pole and the suspension part of it, that was all ornamental, right? That only added more mass and weight to the structure. Now, if that couldn't freestand by itself once it's been put in place, what the fuck was going to happen when a hurricane hit?
Well, what would happen is they would have already gotten paid and left the state, I assume.
Or the country, yeah.
Any rate, any topics anybody wants to bring up? By the way, this is probably like the most people we've had at once. So awesome. I think we got a new record. I think we're still in the single digits, but still.
I'd like to go back to the Trump quote mural,
Okay, sure.
if I can.
Okay.
There actually is precedent. I know you were talking about legal precedents earlier. There is precedent to have murals like that blocked under Miller v. California. Speech is unprotected if the average person applying contemporary community standards but find that the subject taken as a whole appears to shameful or morbid interest in sex. And I think we can all agree that that quote falls under that category.
Yeah, we all know what he's referring to, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the part that always...
Based on today's standards, I would say that it falls under that ruling.
Yeah.
You know...
Yeah, that'd come under the fleeting idiot sort of category there. Sort of like, if you have a can of Coke and another red can of soft drink, and some idiot will just go grab a red can and think it's Coke, well then that's where you can be mistaken for representing something else. We definitely know what they mean by pussy there, so the fleeting idiot can't be confused by what the meaning is.
I do want to say this about the quote. I don't have a problem with what he did with his mural. I have a problem with the effect it has on his neighbors. And the reason why I don't have a problem, because he, unlike a lot of other people, he actually quoted the whole quote. So often they only do part of it. He included the part where Trump says, "They let you." They let you. That is the very definition of consent. Okay? They always go, "Oh, he's a rapist or he's a molester," but no.
Coercion, though. Like, come on.
They let you. Okay? Trust me. I've seen it. I've been dumped by it. Where a woman is like, "Ooh, he's much more successful," and they go hit on the guy because he's rich. I've witnessed it. Don't want to go into the details, but there's nothing wrong with that. To be honest, at the time I was a schlub. I wouldn't have dated me either. I was not rich or successful. Okay, I was kind of a slacker. So
here's one. I wonder if you've heard of this one. The Sheila who was Mindy and Mork and Mindy has come out and said a few things about what Robin Williams was doing back in the 70s.
Oh, he was on drugs. He was like cracked out of his mind.
Yeah. Well, she was saying she was saying he was doing things like he'd come up to her like a sheepish little boy with a funny little grin on his face and sort of just come right up to her, say nothing, just go honk, honk on her boobs and then run away with a giggle. But the funny part about it is she wasn't actually complaining. She was just going, "Yeah, that's what it was like back then. What are you going to do?"
Well, I think the big problem we run into is that we'll look into the past and try to measure it against today's standards. We've learned things, hopefully society has gotten smarter and wiser over time. So when you look into the past, you kind of need to judge it for that time period, in my opinion, because when you start judging everything against the present, nothing's going to measure up. Everything's going to fall short because we're better now. Okay. So.
Oh yeah. And I didn't bring up that ruling to try and state my opinion on what he was saying. I'm just saying they have legal precedent to block that mural.
If, in my opinion, it wasn't affecting anybody else, put it up. But this is one of those cases where your free speech is probably harming your neighbors. Nobody likes politics, especially when it's on a big, huge billboard, along a fence right next to their house. Seriously, nobody likes that.
As a parent, if my neighbors did that, I probably would do something a little more drastic than just try and have it taken down. Honestly.
I'd probably just pay out over it.
Yeah, you can be more direct around here. I'm not sure what you can do in California. Yeah. I'm expecting California to start arresting people like the UK soon.
My plan would probably start another wildfire, and God knows they don't need that. What? I'm not saying. I'm not saying
wildfire.
I'm not saying I would start a fire. I never once said I would start a fire.
Did.
He implied a fire. He would suggest a fire.
What? No.
He'd have very positive feelings towards a fire. He'd call Tyrannosaurus Rex. He would call down Tyrannosaurus Rex to take care of the matter.
Okay, well,
I would ride.
nice,
I would ride
nice,
Tyrannosaurus Rex into battle against that mural.
nice little segue into something that did actually happen in Australia not so long ago. In the last week or so, there's a town down south of New South Wales called Tarthra. It's near a large city or town called Bega, and they had a massive bushfire go through there earlier in the week. And shortly after, I found out something really, really disturbing because I actually had a hand in trying to stop this about 20 years ago. And it's come back up, and it's all about the unions and whatnot. So what happened, right, was the town was cut off, and the Rural Fire Service, they declined assistance from New South Wales Fire Rescue, which is the paid professional fire service in New South Wales. And they were claiming that New South Wales Fire Brigades wanted to send a city pumper into the bush area, and that's why they were declined, which is a load of fucking shit. Anyway, the whole crux of the matter is that there was interdepartmental bullshit that was going on back 20 years ago, because when the bushfire service changed to the Rural Fire Service, we got rules and regulations, became a new service. So we were basically teaching New South Wales Fire Brigades that, like, yes, we're actually a bit more professional now. And we put a stop to all of that, and we actually had to use some fatal house fires as case studies in, showing that yes, we are responsible and we can respond and all this kind of stuff. But if you hear about it, it's all about the unions. It's this old school fucking thing. The unions don't like people doing the work for free, pretty much, and that's what their argument has always been. We're incompetent, we're untrained because we're not paid, and all this kind of stuff. The point of this matter is that we put a stop to this interdepartmental rivalry 20 years ago just to have some fuckwit from the Rural Fire Service go and do it to New South Wales Fire Brigades again. And this has very huge ramifications for the emergency services, because now it might take decisions away from the Rural Fire Service that we absolutely have to have and need to make, and that's going to cost lives. And fucking that's part of the reason why I'm a bit bummed at the moment, because fucking this state is now reneging on a promise that I made fucking 20 years ago, that if there is a fire, we'll get someone to you regardless. And with the town Tarthra itself, New South Wales Fire Brigades also has these types of trucks called composite pumpers. And what a composite pumper is, it's like a bushfire truck, but it's more optimized for in townships and stuff like that. I put it to you, New South Wales Fire Brigades weren't stupid enough to go and send a city pumper out in the scrub. In fact, I bet you $10 they were trying to send it to the town itself, because one pumper in a town can put up one hell of a fight. They got pumps on them that can do 77,000 litres a minute. So that's a huge chunk of water to be thrown at something. And I sure as shit wouldn't have been knocking them back. And I'm pretty sure that everybody on the ground wouldn't have been knocking them back. But there's one fire control officer down in friggin' Bega at the moment he best fucking get on a boat and get the fuck off my island, because I'm fucking fuming at him. Just thought I'd bring that up.
No, I understand what you're saying, and well, I don't think we've had that problem here. I can say, since I grew up in the middle of nowhere, every fire department was pretty much volunteer, but they're amateurs. Trust me, you volunteered. It was an honor to be a volunteer fireman, because they would put you through hell.
Yeah.
I know one guy who did it, and he almost didn't make it. Right? He had to try twice to get in.
It's not for the faint of heart. I mean, like, just take our breathing apparatus training, for example. Like, we just put a ladder up the side of the station. You get halfway up the ladder and do a thing called a ladder lock, which is where you put your leg in and around a couple of the rungs, and you put your arms all the way out, and then you lean as far back as you can off the ladder. That's one exercise, and then when you're done that, you get up to the top of the ladder, and then you stand on the edge of the roof with your toes hanging over it, and then you bend forward and lean over, basically leaning over the roof with full breathing apparatus gear on and all that kind of shit.
I already failed.
It's not for the faint of heart.
I failed at the point where I'm leaning on a ladder halfway up.
Yeah, same.
Well, maybe not. I'm getting over my fear of heights lately, but yeah, no, still not happening.
Yeah, working at Home Depot helped me a lot with that, because we got all sorts of lift trucks and stuff that you got to go up on.
Amnesia for me. Yeah, no. So.
Yeah. Do you guys have cages to go up on the forklifts, or do you just jump on the tines?
No. We actually have a lift machine.
Yeah.
You stand
Well,
on and it raises up.
yeah, been there, done that. Jumped on the tines. Here, quick, chuck me up here, mate. I just got to grab something. Yep, jump me down.
Oh, I know. We did that when I used to build grain silos.
Mm.
I mean, we never did that if Hosh is listening.
Fuck them. They've got to prove that it's not an anecdote.
That's true.
At any rate, any other topics? I think we're going to wind down here because it's been what, an hour and a half? Yeah, that's a pretty good run for us.
All right, here's one that'll freak Wendy out.
Oh God, no, no. Damn it.
Yeah.
No.
I had this dirty, great big fucking spider in my house about a week or so ago, and I said to it, you know that picture of Chris Hemsworth when he found that spider in his house, and it's about as big as his face?
No.
One of those.
No.
Well,
What?
one of those, but
Face hugger from Aliens. Australia has face huggers from Aliens.
right now, I said to this fucker, he was up the other end of the house, right? And I said to him, right, you stay there, you can have the room over the far end of the house, but if you come anywhere near me, I'll fucking kill you. Anyway, so I was watching this bastard through the night one night, and he's crawling along the roof, and he's coming up the hallway into me lounge room, and he's crawling across the roof, and he's doing this zigzag kind of thing, still coming bloody towards me. So, right, I grabbed something, I went to fucking squash the bastard, and he's fucking jumped into the curtains. I couldn't see him. So, right, I don't have any fly spray. I've got some Aerogard, though. I've got Aerogard, fucking insect repellent. I'll just piss the bastard off by spraying the shit out of him like that. Anyway, sprayed him for about 5 minutes, right? He's still hiding in me curtains, and then like, all right. So I went and got something else, gave it a bit of a flick, and the fucker went and jumped towards me. But he landed in a pile of rubbish, and I lost fucking track of him. I'm like, no, you know what? Fuck this, I'm going over. Anyway, so a little while later, I see him crawling up the curtains again, like, you bastard. And he's got up onto the roof, and then he's made a fucking
Party, I
beeline.
adore you, but I can't handle your
He-
stories.
he's-
You're gonna
he's-
be the death of me.
He's made a beeline straight towards me, right? And the only thing I could do is I grabbed this bit of cardboard and I fucking flung it at him, and he's jumped back down into another pile of bloody rubbish, and I haven't seen the fucker since. So he's still in here.
Well, by the way, Wendy, we're going to get you a free trip to Australia to visit our...
And the little bastard's still got it in for me too. But
Am I allowed to go with it?
my little girl, right? My little girl, she keeps bringing mice inside the house, right? And
Maybe that's why the spider's so big. It's eating the mice.
yeah, but she keeps losing them. And every time she brings one in, I'm like, don't drop it here, you'll just fucking lose it. And then like, and so of course all she does, as soon as I say that, she drops the fucking mouse, it runs under a pile of crap, and then fucking, yeah, there you go, you've lost it, you silly cunt. But the other night, she's coming in, and all I hear is this, and I look over and say, oh, Minnie got a mouse. And like, no, she's got this giant fucking rat that's about half her fucking size. I'm like, oh, no, you're not letting that bastard go in here. And I got it by the tail. I'm trying to get it out of the little girl's mouth, and she wouldn't fucking let it go. And I'm like, all right, fine. You're going to drop it in here and fucking lose it, aren't you? And sure as shit, she dropped it and fucking lost it.
Oh my god.
So
Well, it's how the spider's eating. They have a deal.
okay, now there's a fucking bat, right? Now the bat was the easy thing. I got
Bats are fine.
No. They carry heaps of friggin' diseases and shit. You sure as shit don't want them crapping in your house. But anyway,
No,
this
you
funny.
don't, but I'm not afraid of them.
But the weird part about this bat, right? The only window he came in, there's like a bunch of windows I don't have fly screens on, but he came in through the one that's got the hole in the fly screen. And he comes in, he comes up the hallway, does a lap of the lounge room, goes back out down the hallway into the spare room and all this. So after a couple of nights, I thought, you know, bugger this, I'm shutting the window. God, I wish I was awake to hear the thud.
Hey, party. There's a request in chat for you to say reneging.
Reneging. Yes, I know. It sounds like I'm saying something about blackfellas.
There you go, Tank. That was for you.
Alrighty, and okay, so we have face hugger spiders in Australia. That's our parting topic of the evening. That eat
The bats, the rats, the spiders. Oh my!
I can handle bats. I can mostly handle rats and mice because I'm or whatever, but not spiders.
Now,
I can't do spiders.
I was coming home, right, and I went in through the back door, right, and as I've opened the back door, I've heard this inside the house, and that's the unmistakable sound of a snake fucking running away. So I got that too.
You have far too many vermin in your house, dude. You should de-vermin your house. Or is that possible where you live? Like,
it's not possible for the simple fact I'm not allowed to be armed. Oh shit, I said that.
everybody needs to be armed in Australia. You got face-hugging spiders. You should have, like, little children should walk around with, like, guns. Jesus. Anyway. Moving on here. I think that's a good place to stop off.
Got ignored because that was pretty bad.
Any rate, it's been real and it's been fun. I think it's been mostly fun. Any parting thoughts before we head out here?
Did I tell you guys about the time that a bat flew into my sister's bedroom at 2 in the morning?
No.
No, missed that.
Oh yeah, it was great. Like I'm 3/4 of the way asleep, laying here watching something on Netflix or something. I forget what I was doing. She comes pounding on my door 2 in the morning. She's like, "There's a fucking bat in my room." I'm like, "Well, what the shit am I supposed to do about it? Just sleep with your light on. Bat the fuck out of there."
You know, actually, you gave me a flashback. I remember when I was a kid, we got a bat in the house. It's me, my mom, my 2 sisters, and Dad. And one of my sisters had the bat in the bed. And you just heard this screeching at like 2 a.m. because she left her window open because it was like 1,000 degrees. It was in the summer, and a bat went in her, and she's like, ah! And she comes running out. And so my other sister, like, also screams as well because they share adjoining doors on their 2 rooms. So this slams the door, and there's like screaming, and then for some reason, Mom comes up to her, what's going on? What's going on? And my sister goes, oh, there's a bat. And I don't know why, but my mom just started screaming. The doors are closed to the room. She can't even see it. She's just there screaming. So there's 3 women screaming. I'm just standing there like going, I'm honestly kind of curious about the bat, but because everybody else is terrified, I'm like going, okay, obviously, bat must be really dangerous. My dad finally comes up there and goes, what the hell's going on? There's a bat. And it's like, oh. And so he turns around and goes downstairs, and then he comes back upstairs. He's got the cat. He opens the door. He tosses it in and closes it. And then he says, okay, I'll be back. And then he goes down to go back to sleep. And then he comes back up like 20 minutes later, and yes, indeed, there's a dead bat. And the cat got it. But he was just like so casual. He just like, oh. And he had that look of like, you woke me up out of a dead sleep. Goes downstairs, just comes back up, literally tosses the cat in and closes the door. It was awesome.
Okay, here's some international context for everybody here. I'm not sure about the rest of the Commonwealth, but if you go back through this last little conversation about bats and all this kind of stuff, the term having a bat in Australia is also means having a wank. So where everybody's been saying, oh, we had a bat in the house, we had a bat in the house.
We need to be censored in Australia for gross, I don't know, whatever it was that Dankula went in for. Any rate.
Context is a wonderful thing.
In Soviet Russia, exposure dies of you. I like that.
That's some Australian slang that I wasn't familiar with, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Learn something new every day.
Here's some more thing about context and all this kind of stuff, right? Take all the songs that you know with the word heart in it, and then change the word to bum. Change the word heart to bum and see what you get. A good bum these days is hard to find, so please be gentle with this bum of mine. Listen to your bum when it's calling for you. You'd be surprised how well it fits.
Okay, I don't know what. No,
There's a hole in my bum that can only be filled by you.
Okay.
total eclipse of the bum.
Yeah.
Total eclipse of the bum. Okay. But we need it. By the way, if anybody out there is an artist, we need to get Tyrannosaurus wrecked somewhere.
Hey, Bob, I posted a quick sketch and tagged you in it.
Oh, we're going to have to work on that. Any rate, I think this is a good place to wrap this up here for the evening. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. Hope everybody had fun. And any final words before we head out?